Delhi all but disappears behind a veil of toxic smog. Schools close, construction sites halt operations, and hospitals overflow with patients suffering from respiratory issues. Yet, the root causes extend far beyond the city limits. Vehicle emissions, coal-fired power plants, construction dust, burning landfills, and crop stubble fires from hundreds of kilometers away all converge on the capital. Why has India been unable to break this cycle? Number 15. When the capital disappears behind smog. As winter sets in, Delhi enters its period of most severe pollution of the year. A thick blanket of smog envelops roads, residential areas, and high-rise buildings, causing large parts of the capital to virtually vanish from sight. The air not only carries a burnt odor, but also causes stinging eyes, sore throats, and breathing difficulties after just a short time outdoors. If you found this video informative, please subscribe to support the channel. Severely reduced visibility caused many flights to be delayed or diverted. On the roads, drivers had to slow down due to the difficulty of seeing vehicles ahead. As air quality indices rose to dangerous levels, authorities were forced to close schools, restrict trucks, and halt non-essential construction work. Children are required to stay indoors, while the elderly and those with respiratory conditions are advised to limit going outside. At hospitals, the number of patients suffering from persistent coughs, chest pain, asthma, and pneumonia often surges during months of peak pollution. Even healthy individuals may experience dizziness, headaches, or fatigue after prolonged exposure to the outdoor air. Consequently, face masks, air purifiers, and AQI tracking apps have become familiar items in many households. Some people check air quality before deciding whether to open windows, exercise, or take their children to school. For millions of Delhi residents, pollution is no longer an unusual sight. It has become a part of winter life that recurs every year. Number 14. A region designed to trap pollution. Delhi's pollution stems from more than just excessive emissions. The city's geographical location also traps smog and dust, particularly during the winter. The Indian capital lies deep inland within the Indo-Gangetic Plain, a region densely populated by hundreds of millions of people and home to numerous cities, factories, transport networks, and agricultural zones. To the north, the Himalayas act as a natural barrier, restricting the movement and dispersion of polluted air. In summer, the ground heats up rapidly, causing the air layer near the surface to warm and rise. This process generates stronger air movement, helping the wind sweep some pollutants away from the city. However, the situation is largely reversed in winter. Cold, heavy air settles near the ground while a warmer air layer sits above it, creating a temperature inversion. This warm air layer acts like a lid, trapping vehicle exhaust, construction dust, industrial emissions, and smoke from burning straw near the ground, and preventing them from rising. Low wind speeds during the colder months cause fine dust particles to linger near residential areas. High humidity also allows dust to combine with water vapor, creating a dense layer of smog that reduces visibility. Day after day, vehicles, construction sites, and fires add toxic pollutants to this trapped air mass. Consequently, Delhi is often likened to a giant bowl. It traps smoke from the city and surrounding states, yet struggles to disperse it. When adverse weather conditions set in, pollution does not merely rise gradually, but can accumulate rapidly, turning the capital into a zone of hazardous air. Number 13. Mountains of garbage that catch fire. In one of the world's most populous cities, Delhi exists alongside mountains, not made of rock, but of trash. Massive landfills, like Ghazipur, have accumulated waste for decades, rising to such heights that they appear from a distance like artificial hills. Every day, thousands of tons of new waste continue to arrive, even though many of these sites have long since exceeded their capacity. A dangerous process unfolds within the layers of compacted waste. Food scraps, paper, plastics, and organic materials decompose in an oxygen-deprived environment, generating methane, a highly flammable gas. A rise in temperature, or a single spark, can ignite a fire deep within the mass. Unlike a small pile of trash, fires here are rarely extinguished quickly. The flames smolder beneath layers of waste, only to flare up unexpectedly hours or even days later. Smoke from burning waste is particularly hazardous because it contains more than just ordinary dust. When plastics, rubber, synthetic fabrics, and electronic waste are burned, they can release PM2.5, soot, heavy metals, and various toxic compounds. This smoke drifts into residential areas, mingling with traffic emissions and further worsening an already polluted atmosphere. It is worth noting that the landfills are not entirely abandoned. Thousands of people still live or work right next to them. Every day, they scavenge for plastic bottles, metal, paper, and other materials that can be resold. While this work provides an income for many families, it also exposes them directly to smoke, leachate, sharp objects, and chemicals. In Delhi, the landfill thus plays two contradictory roles. It serves as a source of livelihood for the poorest, yet it is also one of India's most dangerous sources of pollution. Number 12. Why farmers keep burning their fields. It is not just burning landfills. Every year, following the rice harvest, thousands of fields across Punjab and Haryana also billow with smoke. These are two of India's most vital agricultural regions, supplying vast quantities of rice and wheat to the entire country. However, the window between the two cropping seasons is very narrow. After harvesting the rice, farmers have only a few weeks to clear their fields and prepare for wheat sowing. Combine harvesters typically leave behind a thick layer of stubble on the field. Collecting this straw manually is time-consuming, while hiring specialized machinery is beyond the financial means of many smallholder farmers. Furthermore, straw is difficult to transport due to its bulk and low economic value. Consequently, field burning has become the quickest and cheapest option. In just a few hours, an entire field can be cleared in preparation for the next crop. The problem is that the smoke does not remain in the fields. Depending on wind direction, massive plumes of smoke can travel hundreds of kilometers across northern India toward the capital region. They carry fine dust, soot, and various pollutants, which then become trapped by winter weather conditions. When combined with emissions from vehicles, factories, construction sites, and burning waste, air quality in Delhi can deteriorate rapidly. The government has banned rice straw burning in many areas, imposed fines, and provided support to farmers for purchasing machinery to process agricultural byproducts. There is also encouragement to use straw as biofuel, livestock feed, or industrial raw material. However, machinery remains insufficient, operating costs are high, and the market for purchasing straw lacks stability. Stubble burning is not the sole cause of pollution in Delhi. However, during periods of adverse weather, the simultaneous outbreak of thousands of fires can turn an already poor air quality situation into a widespread health crisis. Number 11. A city built for cars, not clean air. One of the biggest sources of pollution in Delhi is found right on the streets. For many middle-class families, owning a car is not merely a means of transport, but also a symbol of success. As incomes rise, more and more people are switching from buses or motorcycles to private vehicles. Consequently, the number of vehicles continues to grow faster than the city's infrastructure can expand. To tackle congestion, Delhi has continuously built flyovers, widened roads, and created more space for cars. However, the more roads there are, the more people tend to drive. Many areas are designed to accommodate private vehicles but lack safe sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and proper pedestrian crossings. Pedestrians often have to weave through heavy traffic, while cycling on major roads can be a dangerous challenge. It is not only vehicles registered in Delhi that circulate within the city each day. Millions of cars, motorcycles, buses, and trucks from neighboring areas also enter the capital region. During rush hours, many roads become virtually gridlocked. Vehicles inch forward while their engines continue to run, constantly emitting fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, and other toxic gases. Consequently, a short journey can take several times longer than usual, further increasing the volume of emissions. The problem is exacerbated by the fact that many vehicles are aging. Delhi enforces restrictions on diesel vehicles older than 10 years and petrol vehicles older than 15 years, yet inspection and enforcement are not always consistent. Consequently, many old vehicles remain on the road with inefficient engines and significantly higher emissions. Delhi is striving to promote electric vehicles, clean fuels, and public transport. However, as long as the city continues to prioritize road expansion for cars over making it easier for residents to walk, cycle, and use public transit, it will be very difficult to fully bring traffic-related pollution under control. Number 10. The coal powering a growing economy. Behind India's rapidly expanding cities lies a massive demand for energy. Every year, millions of people migrate to urban areas. New factories come online, industrial zones continue to grow, and an increasing number of households use air conditioning, electrical appliances, and modern vehicles. To keep its economy running, India requires a stable power supply that can be generated at scale and at a relatively low cost. For decades, coal has met precisely that requirement. Coal-fired power plants still supply the majority of the country's electricity. However, the process of burning coal also releases fine particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and various other pollutants. Surrounding Delhi are brick kilns, cement plants, metallurgical facilities, and numerous industrial zones that operate continuously. While some are located tens or even hundreds of kilometers from the capital, their emissions can travel on the wind and merge with the smog accumulating over the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Brick kilns are a particularly notable source of pollution. Many facilities employ outdated technology, burning low-quality coal or mixed fuels to fire millions of bricks for the construction industry. Meanwhile, cement plants and heavy industries generate both dust and exhaust emissions from fuel combustion and raw material grinding. India is investing heavily in solar, wind, and other clean energy sources. However, renewable energy is weather-dependent and requires extensive storage and transmission infrastructure to ensure a continuous power supply. Rapidly shutting down coal plants could lead to power shortages, rising costs, and the loss of millions of jobs. This is why coal remains at the heart of the crisis. It sustains economic growth, industrial production, and affordable electricity, yet it simultaneously increases the burden of disease. For India, the energy transition is about more than just swapping one fuel for another. It is a challenge of balancing economic development with the right to breathe clean air. Number 9. Pollution begins before birth. The impact of air pollution in India can begin before a child is even born. PM5 particles are small enough to penetrate deep into a mother's lungs, causing inflammation and interfering with the flow of oxygen and nutrients. Studies in Delhi indicate that pregnant women living in highly polluted areas face a higher risk of delivering low birth weight or premature babies. This means an infant can be affected by toxic air without ever having directly breathed the outside air. After birth, young children remain the most vulnerable group. Relative to their body weight, children inhale a larger volume of air than adults. They are often physically active, breathe more rapidly, and spend time outdoors, all of which increases their intake of pollutants. Meanwhile, their lungs, brains, and immune systems are still developing, limiting their ability to protect themselves. Fine particulate matter can irritate the respiratory tract, increasing the risk of persistent coughing, bronchitis, and asthma attacks. Prolonged exposure over many years can also stunt lung development. Consequently, children living in heavily polluted environments may reach adulthood with below normal respiratory function. The risks extend beyond the lungs. When ultrafine particles enter the bloodstream, they can trigger systemic inflammation and affect the cardiovascular system. Researchers are also investigating the link between prolonged exposure to pollution and children's concentration, brain development, and academic performance. What is concerning is that children have virtually no say in their level of exposure. They do not choose where they are born, the type of fuel their families use, or the traffic routes running alongside their schools. Consequently, India's air quality crisis does more than just cause immediate illness. It threatens the health, learning potential, and quality of life of an entire generation for decades to come. Number 8. The poor breathe the most expensive air. Air pollution blankets all of Delhi, yet not everyone suffers the consequences equally. For affluent families, clean air can to some extent be bought. They can install air purifiers in every room, travel in enclosed cars, work in air-conditioned offices, or leave the city when air quality drops to dangerous levels. However, for millions of low-income individuals, escaping the smog is virtually impossible. Street vendors must stand by the roadside for hours each day, right amidst the constant flow of exhaust-spewing traffic. Cart pullers, delivery workers, and sanitation staff frequently navigate the busiest routes. Construction workers are directly exposed to cement, dust, sand, and machinery emissions. Even when the AQI rises to dangerous levels, they must keep working, as missing just a single day could mean losing income essential for their entire family. For the homeless, the situation is even more critical. They sleep under overpasses, on sidewalks, or near transit stations, with absolutely no enclosed space to escape the winter smog. Face masks offer only limited protection, while air purifiers are financially out of reach. Pollution follows them home as well. In many low-income neighborhoods, families still cook using firewood, charcoal, or other solid fuels in cramped, poorly ventilated spaces. Smoke from these stoves combines with outdoor air pollution, exposing women, young children, and the elderly to toxic substances for much of the day. When their health deteriorates, the poor pay a heavy price in the form of medication, hospital bills, and lost wages. They share the same air as everyone else. Yet for them, every breath comes at a much higher cost. Thus, the air crisis in Delhi is not merely an environmental issue, it is also a crisis of inequality, where those who contribute the least to pollution often bear the brunt of its consequences. Number 7. The particles small enough to enter the bloodstream. One of the greatest hazards in Delhi's air is virtually invisible to the naked eye. PM5, particulate matter, with a diameter of no more than 2 micrometers. These particles are dozens of times smaller than the width of a human hair, yet light enough to remain suspended in the air for hours and travel vast distances on the wind. Unlike ordinary road dust that typically gets trapped in the nose or throat, PM2.5 can bypass most of the body's natural filtration mechanisms. When inhaled, these particles penetrate deep into the smallest air sacs of the lungs, where oxygen enters the bloodstream. These microscopic particles can even cross the lung barrier, enter the circulatory system, and travel to various other organs. PM5 is not a single type of substance. It can contain soot from diesel engines, sulfates from coal combustion, nitrates from vehicle emissions, metals from industrial activities, and organic compounds generated by burning waste or biomass. It is precisely this complex mixture that causes toxicity levels to vary depending on the emission source. Prolonged exposure to PM2.5 is linked to asthma, chronic bronchitis, reduced lung function, and lung cancer. Upon entering the bloodstream, these particles can trigger inflammatory responses, damage blood vessels, and increase the risk of heart attack or stroke. Individuals with pre-existing heart disease, lung disease, or diabetes face a higher risk. Therefore, air that appears free of smoke is not necessarily clean air. The most dangerous threat is sometimes precisely what people cannot see, smell, or detect until their health has already begun to suffer. Number 6. The dust behind India's construction boom. India is undergoing one of the fastest waves of urbanization in the world. In Delhi and many other major cities, the continuous construction of apartment complexes, roads, flyovers, transit stations, and shopping malls is expanding the economy and creating jobs. However, these projects are also turning many areas into sources of round-the-clock dust emissions. Dust is generated during almost every stage of construction. Demolishing old buildings releases cement and debris into the air. Excavating foundations exposes dry soil, while concrete mixers, stone crushers, and heavy machinery generate further dust. Uncovered sand, cement, and waste can be carried away by the wind, spreading to nearby streets and residential areas. Behind the rapid growth of Indian cities lies a form of invisible pollution that water-spraying trucks cannot easily eliminate. Number 5. Emergency plans that treat the symptoms. When air quality in Delhi reaches hazardous levels, the city activates a tiered emergency response system. The higher the air quality index AQI, the stricter the control measures become. Schools may be forced to close or switch to online learning. Diesel trucks face restrictions on entering the capital. Many construction sites must halt operations, and residents are advised to avoid outdoor exercise. During the most critical days, authorities ordered a halt to demolition work, restricted industrial activities, and stepped up water spraying on dusty roads. Hospitals prepared to admit more patients with respiratory issues, while families with young children or the elderly tried to keep their doors and windows tightly shut and use air purifiers. Response plans can help the city weather the most dangerous days, but they only address the symptoms. Without long-term action regarding transportation, energy, industry, and waste management, the smog will continue to return every winter. Number 4. The expensive towers that could not clean a city. In an effort to combat thick smog, Delhi constructed massive air purification towers in the heart of the city. In principle, these structures function like giant air purifiers. High-capacity fans draw polluted air inside, pass it through a filtration system to capture a portion of fine particulate matter, and then release cleaner air back into the environment. The reason lies in Delhi's immense scale. The air in the city does not remain stagnant like the air inside a room. Wind constantly carries dust from streets, vehicles, construction sites, like factories, and surrounding areas into the capital. While a single filtration tower can process a certain volume of air, a fresh mass of air moves in to replace it within just minutes. To achieve a significant impact across Delhi, experts estimate that the city might require hundreds of such towers. Number 3. Billions spent on the wrong target. India is not lacking in anti-pollution programs. Over the years, the government has enacted laws, established monitoring networks, and allocated substantial funds to cities with poor air quality. The National Clean Air Program was launched with the aim of reducing pollution in more than 100 urban areas. However, the results achieved have yet to match the investment and effort put in. One of the major issues lies in how funds are utilized. Many localities focus on road dust and PM10, relatively large particles often originating from construction sites, deteriorated road surfaces, and trucks transporting materials. Common measures include spraying water, mechanical street sweeping, repaving roads, and erecting barriers around construction sites. These actions are easily observable and measurable, and they can quickly make streets appear cleaner. However, air that appears clearer is not necessarily safer. It is PM2.5 fine particulate matter that can penetrate deep into the lungs and enter the circulatory system, increasing the risk of heart disease, stroke, and various respiratory ailments. These particles primarily originate from fuel combustion, vehicle emissions, industrial plants, coal-fired power generation, and waste burning. A reduction in PM10 levels does not automatically mean that PM2.5 levels decrease at the same rate. Even with well-designed policies, implementation remains inconsistent. Older vehicles continue to circulate, construction sites violate regulations, waste is still burned, and factories do not always comply with emission standards. Bans are often tightened when pollution reaches dangerous levels, only to be quickly relaxed once the weather improves. Therefore, India's biggest obstacle is not a lack of plans or budgets, it is the gap between what is announced and what actually takes place on the streets, at construction sites, and within industrial zones. Number 2. Air has no state borders. Air pollution in Delhi cannot be addressed solely through measures confined to the capital's boundaries. Smog does not stop at checkpoints or administrative borders. Depending on wind direction and weather conditions, pollutants from Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh can travel hundreds of kilometers and accumulate across the entire Indo-Gangetic Plain. A power plant in one state can affect a city in another. Smoke from burning fields in Punjab and Haryana can drift toward Delhi. Trucks from nearby industrial zones continue to pump emissions into the capital, while brick kilns and factories located outside the city contribute to the collective smog. This has also sparked a protracted dispute over responsibility. Delhi authorities frequently point to stubble burning in neighboring states, while those states argue that traffic, construction, and waste within Delhi itself are the primary causes. As each side focuses on protecting its own image or interests, coordinated action becomes sluggish and inconsistent. Scientists therefore propose managing pollution based on airsheds areas that share a common air mass. Under this approach, state boundaries are no longer the primary unit of consideration. Instead, authorities must identify all emission sources within the region and collaboratively develop a control plan. Number 1. Can India repeat China's clean air turnaround? India is not the first country to grapple with smog-choked cities. Over a decade ago, many major Chinese cities frequently recorded dangerous pollution levels. Beijing became a global symbol of smog, characterized by thick gray skies, school closures, and residents limiting their time outdoors. However, the situation began to shift when the government launched a large-scale pollution control campaign. China has closed or relocated numerous aging factories, reduced coal consumption in urban areas, and raised vehicle emission standards. Power plants are required to install pollution control equipment, while public transport and renewable energy sectors are rapidly expanding. Crucially, specific emission reduction targets have been assigned to individual localities. Authorities failing to meet these targets face potential penalties, and monitoring data is used to track progress on an ongoing basis. Results did not appear immediately, but over the years, fine dust levels in many cities have dropped significantly. This demonstrates that a populous nation heavily reliant on industry can still improve air quality if policies are consistently implemented. India already possesses the necessary technologies, programs, and regulations. However, the country faces a more complex challenge because authority is shared among the central government, states, and local administrations. Each region has distinct economic needs, emission sources, and interests. A ban in Delhi would be ineffective unless neighboring states took coordinated action. As winter ends, strong winds sweep the haze away from Delhi. Schools reopen, construction sites resume operations, and face masks vanish from the streets. Yet the crisis is far from over. Traffic remains heavy. Coal continues to burn. Trash piles up and dust keeps spreading. India does not lack solutions. What is missing is sustained action.